morning. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, also sitting as all special taxing districts, will be on January 6, 2025, 9 a.m. More board members will attend either in person or by telephone. We're all here. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? You are raised line. Please lead us.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and start the swearing in or ceremony for swearing in of all elected officials, and we have Honorable Judge Roger A. Nelson will administer the oath of office to Honorable David Haas.
It's actually going to be Judge Farrar.
All right, Judge.
Right.
Good morning.
Judge Farrar, yes, thank you. Not Judge Nelson.
Yeah.
I wish.
No.
Anybody have a step stool?
People joke that we should trade roads. We would look like a mini skirt.
Good morning, everyone. It's such an honor to swear in Judge this morning, and an honor to serve with you on the bench. We'll get started. I, state your name,
David M. Haas,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and defend them against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of Yuma County Superior Court
of the office of Yuma County Superior Court
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Quick change.
I apologize for my voice. I caught a cold. I'm feeling much better. I still sound terrible. It is a pleasure to be here today. While I'm getting rest, I want to say a few things about this. I've lived most of my professional career under an oath. It's an oath that I take seriously. And each public official today has been selected by members of the community to serve in various offices. Many of them have taken the oath before. For some, this will be their first time. The oath is significant. It reminds us that the work that we do has limitations. We're responsible to work in the interests of the community, not ourselves, and the authority and responsibility is to be performed within the limitation and confines of the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona. And with that, we will move to the swearing in of the Board of Supervisors. I'd like to ask the supervisors to all come forward. Cameras there. Go ahead, have you facing the camera. I'll face away from it.
They can just take pictures of you.
Okay, good.
All right, if you please raise your right hand. I state your name.
Larry Burgess.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of Yuma County Supervisor
of Yuma County Supervisor
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Now I'd like to ask the county treasurer to come forward. You stand there as well. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I,
State your name.
David Alexander,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
the Constitution and the laws of Arizona,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
and I will bear true. Ooh, should have practiced this a little bit.
True faith and allegiance to the same,
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic.
That I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of Yuma County Treasurer
of Yuma County Treasurer
according to the best of my ability,
to the best of my abilities,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now ask the county assessor to come forward. There's a specialized oath for county assessor. So we'll do that now. Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me.
I,
State your name.
Stephen Seal,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will well and truly
that I will well and truly
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of assessor of the county of Yuma,
of the assessor of the county of Yuma,
and will,
and will,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
truly and fairly determine
truly and fairly determine
the valuation
the valuation
without favor or partiality
without favor or partiality
of all of the taxable property
of all the taxable property
in said county
in said county
at its full cash value.
at its full cash value.
Congratulations. Next, we have county attorney. Enthusiastic support.
But she retired and left me.
Well, that's right. That's too bad, but- Please raise your right hand, repeat after me.
I,
State your name.
Carolyn Kazarowski,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of Yuma County Attorney
of Yuma County Attorney
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Now, my fellow judges, Superior Court judges, please support. Welcome. Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I
I,
state your name.
Nathaniel Sarnes,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies,
and
and
defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of Yuma County Superior Court Judge
of Yuma County Superior Court Judge
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
One more to go. School superintendent.
Last but not least.
Sir,
Would you raise your hand? Repeat after me. I
I,
state your name.
Tom Hurt,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona.
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic.
That I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of Yuma County School Superintendent
of the office of Yuma County School Superintendent
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Judge, and congratulations to all the elected officials. Once again, thank you for being here, being part of the county. We're gonna have a reception on the lobby. You're all more welcome to join us, and then we'll convene into the regular session after the
Short
the
reception,
reception.
yeah.
So we can go into the lobby.
You can come through this way or you can go around.
What did you do, Mayor? What did you do, Chairman? It scared everybody?
Ran everybody off.
Everybody, oh,
We'll go ahead and reconvene back to the regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. And we'll move on to call to the public. Call to the public is held for public benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email at publiccomment@yumacountyaz.gov. The email forms of public comment will be accepted until 8 a.m. the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read out loud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. Desiree, do we have any emails?
We do not.
Do not? I do have 2 speaker forms, or 3. I got 3. Ray Phillips, you want to?
So good morning. I'd like to bring a subject up for consideration as an agenda item in the near future. As a park manager, I'm certified by ampro.org, which teaches Arizona state laws for long-term manufactured, mobile, and RV tenants. Long-term means 180 executive days, which is the case at River Ranch. The laws governing this type of housing are found at ARS Title 33, Chapters 11 and 19. My experience with 3 Yuma deputies and were called to the park on December the 19th, approximately at 6:30, about a trespassing issue dealing with overstaying of a guest led me to believe that local law enforcement may be following another landlord-tenant law. I've been advised by Terry Newland, a director at ampro.org, that these laws are not well known, especially in rural Arizona, thus I'm calling it to your attention. I felt I was treated unfairly by the deputy in charge who chose not to attend to my concern, stating that we have to change our park rules because they were not in compliance with Arizona state law. But I believe he was referring to the Apartment Act, not the Mobile Home Act, which is what we are to follow by law. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, I can look into that if you'd like.
Thank you. Marilyn Finch.
Mr. Chairman, they had to leave. They wanted to just congratulate each board member and share their regards.
Okay. Nicole. Okay. Nicole. Hey.
Good morning. I was actually trying to speak on one of your items in your consent calendar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do see it, number 7.
Is that
Okay.
is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. I didn't see that. I apologize. All right. Anybody else from the public that wishes to address the board? Seeing none. Moving on to presentations, proclamations, and appointments. During this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustments. No legal action will be taken. Do we have any appointments?
do we have any, Maggie's here. Maggie, do we have any appointments in planning, zoning, or board of adjustments at all? We don't? We don't have to redo them? There are no vacancies?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, a lot of the positions that we appoint people to last until your term ends. So the question for me was, is there any board members, any planning and zoning board members or adjustment members or anybody that needs to be reappointed? Library district.
Not at this time. I will check with the P&Z administrative specialist so that she can notify the board if there are any.
Thank you. I
Mr. Chairman Maggie, we also had the resignation for the commercial development, right?
IDA,
And that was to be by the board or by this board?
you know, the clerk of the board was looking into that matter, and we'll have to reconvene and get an update.
Okay. Because we had a vacancy on the commercial development.
The idea was the
Yeah.
industrial development board. Okay, well, next time, if we need to make some appointments or something, just let us know ahead of time so we can do it.
Moving on to item number 1, presentation of the mix, Yuma County, Yuma 77.
Hello, and welcome to a special year-end edition of The Mix. Today we're looking back at the moments and milestones that made 2024 unforgettable for Yuma County. But before we dive into the full year in review, let's toss it over to Oscar for a look back at his VIP Access segments. Oscar, take it away.
Thanks, Arlene. So this year, VIP Access delivered an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at Yuma County's essential services and exciting developments. Here is how we highlighted the work that drives our community forward. We began with an up-close look at the Public Works Fleet Division, spotlighting the expertise and stringent safety standards that keep Yuma County's vehicles in peak condition. The journey ended on an electrifying note with the introduction of all-electric vehicles into our fleet, a bold step forward to a sustainable future. Next, we took a breath of fresh air and explored Yuma County's beautiful parks. These vibrant spaces offer the community areas to run, play, barbecue, and enjoy Yuma's natural beauty, all at no cost to you. In April, recognition and appreciation took center stage during Yuma County's annual Employee Recognition Ceremony. We honored milestone years of service and celebrated nominees and winners of the Safety Excellence Award and Employee of the Year, a true tribute to those who go above and beyond. Major developments were unveiled with an insider's look into the Department of Development Services. Our coverage educated viewers on the permitting, inspection process, all while empowering property owners to navigate improvements with ease. Next up, staying safe outdoors was made simple with an inside look at vector control, offering tools, tips, and resources to help protect against harmful pests, all while enjoying Yuma's scenic outdoors. If you're looking for a job, there was a great exclusive for job seekers. We visited Human Resources, highlighting a variety of available positions, award-winning benefits, and expansive development opportunities that make Yuma County a true employer of choice. Families received valuable insight during our feature on the Health District's Health Start program, which offers free resources in breastfeeding, childcare, car seat installation, and much more, supporting Yuma community families every step of the way. From there, we headed straight to the vault at the Treasurer's Office, highlighting the convenience of online tax payments and explaining how your tax dollars help build and strengthen our community. Next up, equipped with protective gear, we toured the future Yuma County Administration Services building, a project spanning 100,000 square feet. This facility will house 8 departments and offices, over 170 employees, and most importantly, offer centralized services for community members. Finally, we closed the year off with the Finance Department, highlighting the convenience of online bill pay and the award-winning financial services that ensure Yuma County's fiscal responsibility. Well, there you have it. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Yuma County has accomplished so much this year, and next year promises to be a great year for Yuma County. Back to you, Arlene.
Thank you, Oscar, for giving us an inside look at all those incredible VIP Access moments. Now let's take a broader look at the milestones and achievements that define 2024. From major construction projects to community events and sustainability initiative, this year was all about progress. Yuma County celebrated a milestone with the topping out ceremony for its new downtown administration services building. The final steel beams signed by the Board of Supervisors marked the completion of the structure's framework. Yuma County Board of Supervisors officially canvassed results from both the 2024 primary and general elections. 2 local races required recounts, which were finalized in Yuma Superior Court. These efforts underscored Yuma County's commitment to transparency and accessibility in the electoral process. March 26 witnessed the grand opening of Yuma Foothills Community Park. The inaugural phase answered a long-standing call for recreational space, featuring play areas, walking paths, and ramadas. Arizona Western College celebrated the launch of its upgraded law enforcement training academy. Operational since 1985, the facility now boasts over $10 million in improvements, including classrooms, defensive tactic rooms, and dormitories. The academy's expanded 22-week program, exceeding state standards, aims to graduate up to 26 recruits per class, addressing the region's law enforcement needs. Yuma County Public Works began an ambitious road inventory project partnering with Austin-based Roadway Asset Services, or RAS. Utilizing advanced vehicles equipped with digital cameras, RAS will collect data to update the county's pavement management program, enhancing transportation infrastructure for the next 5 years. Governor Katie Hobbs delivered a tailored State of the State address, spotlighting achievements and challenges specific to Yuma County. Community leaders, government officials, and residents gathered to hear plans for economic growth, public safety, and infrastructure improvements. Sustainability took center stage with a $1.5 million Water Infrastructure Finance Authority grant. Key initiatives included exerscaping at 6 county facilities, water conservation planning, and educational outreach. These efforts are expected to reduce water usage by 60% and save 46 acre-feet annually. During National Work Zone Awareness Week, Public Works staff educated young drivers at Cibola High School. The campaign emphasized safe driving practices to protect roadway workers and motorists alike, reinforcing the county's dedication to public safety. As 2024 comes to a close, Yuma County reflects on a year of growth, collaboration, and progress. Thank you for being part of this incredible journey. We're excited to see what 2025 brings, and we'll be here to share all the stories, events, and updates. Until then, stay safe, stay connected, and we'll see you next time on The Mix. Happy New Year.
Chairman, before I forget, I'd like to thank everybody that had anything to do with the reception we had today. I mean, the food was great. There wasn't, whatever you described as food, that was good. The cakes were good. Everybody that participated in that. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Pass it along to staff. Thank you, Supervisor Reyes.
Moving on to consent calendar, the following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless the board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action.
Chairman, I was a little surprised to see Humberto del Castillo there at the meeting, but now I realize why. So I'd like to make a motion. We go ahead after.
We got to pull like number 7.
Number 7. Well, all right. I'll make a motion that we approve all the items as presented, 1 through 10, with the exception of number 7.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve items 1 to 10 with the exception of 7. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it's number 7, elections. As requested by the Yuma County Republican Party, approve the appointments of the following precinct committeemen to fill vacancies for terms that will expire on October 1st, 2026. Jackie Alves, precinct number 25. Lauren Alves, precinct number 25. Nicole Canoa Beggarly, precinct number 26. Sorry about that. You want to come? Do you want to?
Yes, good morning, Chairman. I just was going to say that I would like my name taken off of this list. I put in my paperwork months ago, so I was shocked to see my name on here, and I am just worried that if I accept this now, I won't be able to become elected for the next term because the term ends in October. and for the next term to become elected, I thought it was earlier than that. So I just don't want it to overlap so that I can't be an elected precinct committeeman versus appointed.
Do you wanna, I mean, I think, elections or, yeah, they can help you out with that and guide you in what you need to do.
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe there's a restriction on that,
No.
though. There's no restriction. You can still accept an appointment and then run.
Yes, you can.
They overlap and it's no big deal.
Okay. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure because there was some confusion on this past term. Some people thought they were elected and then they were actually appointed, and I just don't want any of that confusion for the
explain that
next
a little
term.
bit.
Yeah, and any questions, I think elections can help you.
Okay.
But yes, you
Being,
can be,
being appointed does not restrict you from running.
there you go.
Okay.
That's it, right
Yeah.
there.
Okay, thank you.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that we go back and just do the regular work?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item number 7 as presented.
Well, you said,
Go ahead.
that's fine.
There's a motion and a second to approve item number 7 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to planning and zoning agenda. Full legal descriptions of property sites for all rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors office. And we'll move on to expedited rezoning and public hearing. These items will be open as a group for public hearing and acted upon by one motion to adopt the recommendation of Planning and Zoning Commission, except for any item that is removed by the board members for separate consideration. That item will be discussed and acted upon separately following action and expedited item. And I have item number 1, rezoning case number 2422-22.
I have a question, some questions on that. Can you, can somebody,
We have here.
We'll do a PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Jesus Carrillo, Senior Planner. You would like a presentation or you want me to answer that question?
Or you have a question that it's expedited, but I mean.
I know, I still have questions. One is when this, we're just doing the square footage right now, but when it comes to fruition and all the plans come in and stuff, there's a conversion where these lots won't have access to irrigation, but they will still be required to pay irrigation fees. And there's a conversion process that has to go through. Can you make sure that, can the county make sure that that conversion process is actually fulfilled during that process, so that the people who buy the lots for the RV park, or you, I guess, if you're going to own them, are you selling the lots, or are you going to sell, is it going to be a park where they rent?
I'll let the owner answer that question.
No, I'm not selling a lot.
Okay, so you're going to be an RV owner, an RV park owner
No, I am going to put a manufactured home on there.
on just one?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Well, just so you know that if it doesn't have access to irrigation, you're still going to have to pay irrigation unless you do a conversion process with the irrigation district.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's fine.
Okay, there's lots of houses in that area where the conversion hasn't taken place and people are paying for irrigation that they're not receiving. So I just don't want it to happen to others.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Mr. Chairman, they're not doing an RV park. The zoning is for manufactured home installation.
I know.
One per person.
One, yeah, per thing. Okay. I just want to make sure.
Chairman, do you like a presentation or?
Anyone? We don't think so. Any other questions for staff?
No, that's just.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. If anybody from. Nobody from the public. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for action.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I move that we approve rezoning case number 24-22.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve rezoning case number 2422-22. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to rezoning, public hearing items. Staff will make a full presentation on each of the following items, followed by separate discussion, public hearing, and action by the Board of Supervisors. Item number 1, Development Services, Planning and Zoning Division discussion concerning possible text amendment to the Yuma County zoning ordinance, revising sections 202.00 definitions, 602.02 permitted uses, 603.02 permitted uses, 604.02 permitted uses, 624.02 permitted uses, and adding sections 1108.19 backyard foul.
Good morning, Richard Munguia, Senior Planner. So last year, the state passed a law stipulating that a county cannot prohibit residents of a single-family detached residence on a lot that is 1/2 acre or less in size from keeping up to 6 fowl in the backyard of the property. And the intent of this discussion is to obtain direction from the board on whether or not to move forward with the proposed changes. The statute does identify the regulations that the county can adopt. It can prohibit keeping roosters, require that hens are in an enclosure with a maximum size of 200 square feet, a height of 8 feet, and 15 feet from a neighbor's dwelling. And that's over here. The county can require the enclosure to be maintained with manure picked up twice weekly and require, if the manure is composted, that it would prevent insect migration. The county can also require water sources with overflow drainage, keeping feed and insect and rodent-proof containers, and prohibit the fowl from running at large. The ARS also specifies the definition of fowl as domestic chicken. This does not impact any 4-H or FFA projects whatsoever. So the proposed changes are shown here. The text proposed to be deleted is in strike-through, added text is in bold. This is for definitions. We are adding a fowl to be a domestic chicken. In other portions that previously had fowl, we're changing to poultry, which would be pretty much any other domesticated bird that's not a chicken. We're fixing it up, cleaning it up a little bit to make sure that the chickens are permitted. In sections 602, 603, 604, 624, those are all being changed to...
Chairman, was this done in conjunction with FFA?
No, this is completely separate. The ARS passed that law, and it's completely separate from FFA.
But they were asking for some simultaneous changes.
In the ARS?
No. Specifically for the foothills area and a couple of other places where we had complaints. I just want to know how those conform.
Those are completely two separate things. That FFA text amendment, I think that's done. Yeah, it didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
This is completely separate.
Okay. I just got a text, that's why I was asking.
Oh, yeah, no.
Somebody's watching from home.
Nothing to do with FFA.
So does this include, okay, if I'm looking at it right, chickens or fowl in residential areas are going to be required to be kept in pens?
This is the discussion that we're proposing. Right now, the ARS says that we can have up to 6 chickens, and we are in the discussion portion where we're trying to determine what regulations we want to have applied.
So ARS provides us latitude.
Correct. And that's shown here.
Well, I like the requiring pens and cleaning up every 2 days and the composting. I like all those requirements.
This is in the discussion phase, so you'll see this again if you have any changes that you'd like to.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, because there's some of those I like.
Yeah.
And my question, who's going to be monitoring this?
I'd like to say that it would be the neighbors. We don't have anybody. It's going to be, most likely it's going to be the neighbors. If there's a problem, somebody's going to smell it or hear it.
Yeah, you only take care of things if there's a complaint.
Correct.
Okay.
But in the department and staff. I can just see, they didn't show up. Then we have another complaint from that same neighbor. So how is that gonna be monitored or
Well,
just add more? That's another
Responsibility.
responsibility that it's adding to. And if we don't address it right or in a timely manner, we'll be looking at, okay, well, you're not doing your job.
well, as it stands right now, the ARS is passed, so they can have 6 chickens. It doesn't specify rooster or hen. So right now, somebody can have 6 roosters. This right here is tightening it up, so we're preventing roosters where there's regulations and things like that. So I would assume that the deputy zoning inspectors would go out and take a look at any issues as they're received.
And obviously, that neighbors have the right to report, but if they don't do their homework and someone is a project for 4-H, then, how do we identify that? If it's a 4-H project, or, it'd be just, well, they can say it's a 4-H project.
Mr. Chairman, so like I stated, like the planner stated, the proposed text amendment is different than the 4-H issue. So because chickens are now, if the text amendment passes, chickens will be allowed by right in residential zoning districts. So if it's a 4-H animal or if it's just a chicken for their own use, they're not going to be required to obtain a temporary use permit. But there'll be a limitation as to the number of chickens that can be kept. Up to 6 is the proposed amendment.
So they can still do the 4-H, they're just going to have to meet the requirements of the amendment as far as housed and cleaned, and which they should be doing anyway if it's a 4-H project. So
Right, Mr. Chairman, if they have chickens, they will have to meet the requirements regardless of whether it's for a 4-H or FFA project, or they just want to keep chickens on their properties.
So, and this is only for how big of lots, you said, less?
Parcels of 1/2 acre or less in size.
1.5 or half?
Half acre.
Half acre, okay.
Yes.
Half acre or less, yeah.
Yes, currently the zoning ordinance does not allow chickens or small farm animals unless property is 40,000 square feet or larger. And if the zoning is R140, low density residential, 40,000 square feet minimum, suburban ranch, suburban site built, or rural area are the zoning districts that allow farm animals. If the amendment passes, all residential zoning districts will be allowed to have chickens.
To me, it's better to put, it's a statute, it's a state statute, so we're going to have to follow the state statute. But the fact that they gave us leeway to be able to make additional restrictions if we want, gives us some leeway and allows us, and 90% of the people will follow those rules. It's just the 10% that aren't going to follow them, and they wouldn't have followed them whether they were there or not, right? So to me,
Is it a permissive change? It allows more people to do this?
well, the state statute allows everybody to do it. So what we have to do now is make sure that we're taking into account the neighbors.
it's not becoming a nuisance.
And those people that are around, so that those chickens aren't an issue
This
for
is
them.
one of those issues where a neighbor complains to get paid for it, is it?
No. It's an issue where we go and send them a letter saying.
It's getting to a point now where the legislature is just making sure that if anybody complains, if they win the complaint, they get paid, so.
I know, huh?
Focusing on people. Okay,
Yeah,
so this
I
is
know.
a permissive action on our part that allows us to meet state statute and at the same time restrict it a little more.
Correct.
Issue some restrictions on it.
Yes, the proposed amendment will place additional restrictions that ARS allows us to put for this.
And it only applies,
changes.
it only applies to those in the county that are less than half an acre.
I'll open the vote.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie.
You're
Any other questions for staff? I'll go ahead and open it up to open the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. I think the limiting of the, oh, I'm sorry, Aaron Selly, and my APN number is 728-07-001. I think limiting the male fowl is something that is absolutely essential during some of these areas, and also addressing some, could you go back 2 slides, please, to the strike-through slide? I think we're addressing more than just the fowl here, and I think we should split that into separate issues. If they want to address the fowl in the first issue, then we can address other FFA and 4-H issues in a separate amendment. But I think trying to blend them all together and all this strike through is probably something that should be looked at further, discussed further.
Has legal looked at this? Are we okay with legal? Are we okay? Yes.
Any questions or concerns, comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Right, you want to address?
The text here does not affect FFA whatsoever. What this is cleaning up definitions.
Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't affect 4-H as well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's cleaning up the definitions to specify that fowl specifically is chickens only, and poultry would be geese, ducks, hen, guinea fowl,
Down at
and
the
things like
bottom.
that.
So they can have guinea hens, geese, ducks, turkeys, and pigeons as well as chickens.
Correct, but the ARS only identifies fowl for chickens.
Thank you.
Chicken.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the state statute only allows chickens in residential zoning districts.
All right.
I just don't want there to be confusion about if this passes and they can have turkeys and geese and in all residential zoning districts. Just chickens.
Just chickens. Okay.
And if there are no changes to this proposed amendment as presented today, it will go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And if the Planning and Zoning Commission initiates the language as presented, once it comes to the board, you will not be able to make any changes. The only way changes can be made is the process will need to start over again with new language to the proposed changes to the zoning ordinance. So, like I said, these are the proposed changes in strike and bold format. Text and strike-through format is text that is intended to be deleted. Text in bold font is proposed new text that will be added to the zoning ordinance.
But maybe I'm not reading it correctly, but if you put in fowl or poultry, then you're allowing all these other animals, correct?
No, because
it's in there, you added that to it. Okay.
Correct. The proposed language specifically for fowl indicate the keeping of fowl is allowed, not the keeping of poultry.
Got it, thank you.
One thing that worries me is like geese and turkeys, they can get rather loud at times.
And that's why it's only.
Then the complaints start.
Well, that's exactly that. Geese and turkey.
Go under.
Yeah. Poultry is not allowed in residential zoning districts. Only chickens.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. That's, so we've got that clarified.
Large reptiles, like boa constrictors.
I'm sorry.
Those don't count.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you. I didn't hear it.
Snakes are dangerous to pets. I move.
Anybody else from the public?
Tony.
I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Bring it back to the board.
Okay.
Open it up, please.
I move that, let's see, that a text amendment to the Yuma County zoning ordinance revising sections 202-00 definitions, 602-02 permitted uses, 603-02 permitted uses, 604-02.
As presented.
We'll send
As
it back to
written.
the planning and zoning.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
I move we send it, yeah.
the motion should be to
Go,
return
Lynn,
the
you go.
item to Planning and Zoning Commission
Thank you, Maggie.
to initiate an amendment to the
Okay.
zoning ordinance.
That's what I move.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll second that.
There's
Not
a
moving.
motion and a second to return this item to planning commission to initiate a text amendment to the Yuma County zoning ordinance. All those in
Explain
favor
this one
say
more
aye.
time.
Aye.
Any
I
opposed?
want an explanation. One more time.
You guys,
Go through this one more time, just to make sure.
I know. Give me the rest of it now.
Item number 2, rezoning case number 24-20.
This is yours, isn't it?
Morning.
Tony. Yeah, this your
This request is to rezone a parcel 15.2 gross acres in size from rural area 10 acre minimum to rural area 5 acre minimum, and it's located in the 70 to 74 decibel noise zone. It's located at 1851 West County 16th Street, and the intent is to split the property into 3 lots for agriculture and residential homes, agriculture use in residential homes. All of the property in the vicinity is zoned RA10, and it's located within the 70 to 74 decibel noise zone. The property is bordered on the west by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation B Main Lateral Canal and the elevated service road. The parcel 196-33-030 to the north is agriculture. 196-33-31 to the north contains a single-family residence. To the east and to the south are in agriculture, and parcel 212-04009 contains a single-family residence. The subject parcel is outlined here in red. It's 15.2 acres, and it's currently enrolled in a fallowing program and primarily used for agriculture. There is 1 single-family residence on site with another under construction, and the property has access via County 16th Street. And this is a bird's eye view.
I don't see a residence on site.
This is an older aerial. It's,
I see it now.
Okay.
In that corner?
yeah,
Okay.
that is correct. So this is the proposed site plan if the zoning is approved. The applicant stated that they would remove the proposed 40-foot easement between parcels 2 and 3 upon submission of the land division. And that commitment is included in the schedule for development. It's item number 4, which was added after the Planning and Zoning Commission received their staff reports. Staff did receive 2 comments in opposition, Yuma County Airport Authority and MCAS. And the request to rezone the property to RA5 is similar to other properties in the area. It maintains the rural character of the area and fits the densities and intensities of the comprehensive plan. The applicant did agree with the conditions in the schedule for development on November 18th, 2024. Staff is recommending approval to, subject to the conditions outlined and shown here. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tony.
Oh, well, okay. So we have this situation with the Marine Corps Air Station and encroachment. Is this close enough to really impact the base's expansion, or is it just on the boundaries?
It might be the boundaries. MCAS did submit a letter, and I hope that it was attached with all the documents in here. Okay, so I know their letter came a little bit late too.
Oh, I mean, this brings in the issue of whether we actually can do something without, without getting something legal from the Marine Corps Air Station, which now seems to believe that, that if they say no, we cannot make a decision. So legally, are we bound by what the Marine Corps Air Station letter sent, the letter that they sent?
Let me.
You understand what I'm saying, right? Whenever the Marine Corps says, oh, it doesn't fit our plan and we've got the right to say no, and it just seems to me like every time they do that, even though the horse might have left the farm there, we were sort of like stuck in a situation where we're saying, well, you make a decision. Planning and Zoning voted yes, I think 4-2. So what are we facing here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is in the 70 to 74 decibel noise zone. Currently, the way the zoning ordinance reads is that no new residential development is allowed in the noise zones. However, if the property is engaged in agricultural use or the property is used for general agricultural purposes, um, the, there is an exemption clause that they are exempt from zoning, regardless of whether the property is in the noise zones or not. A property used for agricultural purposes is exempt from zoning if it is 5 or more contiguous commercial acres. The applicant has stated that they plan on using these new 5 lots for agricultural purposes, so they will be allowed to have a single-family residence on each of the parcels if this request is approved.
So this is a zoning change.
Mr. Chair, Tony, can I make a comment? The 3 parcels, one of them they stated is going to be sold, and then they'll have no control over whether or not it's, where is that 3? Whether it's going to be an agriculture or not. The second parcel is going to go to a family member, and the third parcel already has a house on it. So, but if one of these parcels is sold off, then how do we know that it's not going to be, that it is going to be for agricultural uses? I mean, if it's a separate owner, you don't know. And it's in the 70 to 74 decimal area, so.
I guess it goes back to my question. I mean, you're saying that agriculture is protected. In other words, that the exemption does deal with agricultural uses. But then we're doing a rezoning to allow some homes to go in there.
Right.
So how does that?
In the 70 to 74.
It's zone agriculture.
It's zone agriculture already.
Yeah.
And it's just large. So you think agriculture there would work better in a large parcel. But if you're going to subdivide it to sell it for a home, and then put another home in the other parcel, then what you're doing is zoning it for residential purposes, not for agricultural purposes. Although you can do agriculture in a 5-acre parcel. I do agree that that's possible.
Mr. Chairman, the intent of this rezoning case is to rezone the property from rural area 10-acre minimum to rural area 5-acre minimum. So the RA district allows agricultural uses. It does allow 1 single-family home per parcel, depending on the acreage. In this case, it would be 1 home per 5 acres. If the property is used for general agricultural purposes, it is exempt. It will be exempt from zoning, and they will be allowed to have a residence on that parcel, even though the airport district prohibits new residential development.
Yeah, I'd have a lot more problems if it was like an R16 zoning or something where you have like a lot of houses going up. You know, people who live in a 74 decibel home, they know they have to have noise attenuation on the walls, a couple of other things, otherwise they won't get a permit. So it doesn't seem to me like it's a lot of encroachment on an area that's already far away from either the landing strips of the Yuma County Airport Authority or the base testing grounds, which is the purpose that we have, is to try to avoid residential development near the base so we don't encroach on the base. And the base will take any kind, anything, and say we don't like it. And I understand that, but this is not like a major residential development.
They have
This is
statute.
and they claim, that's why I asked about the statute initially, because how strong is that statute? Does it have any allowance for this kind of thing?
It's just their recommendation.
The wording in state law also has a provision that is if a property is used for general agricultural purposes, they can have a residence
Like
on
I said,
that
I'm not
property.
concerned with encroachment that much. I don't think this is much of an encroachment. I'm concerned with the statute, whether it's used, it's just residential, it's not agricultural in nature. That's what I'm concerned with. And I get that things are allowed, but when the owner says we're gonna sell this property, then it gets a little dicey for me, because selling the property means you allowing people to live there, and so they know that they can. But it's one of those beware of what you buy type of things, because it's gotta be stated in there.
Well,
As long as it's still agriculture.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
That area right there is in the flight plan, right? It's in the new do you have anything from the MCAS where we're looking at the total coverage of the Marine base where the flights take off and land, A and B and C?
Arrival and departure corridor, and I
That's
don't
right.
think
It
it's
isn't?
within
It is.
the APZs either.
There
in
it
this-
is, that's what I was looking for.
It's on, it's past the
APZs.
mortuary and
Okay.
on Avenue B and County
Okay.
16.
Then
It
it's
is
out
not in
there
an
pretty
accident
far.
potential zone.
That's what I wanted to make sure. It's not in the crash zone.
No, it's not in the acceptance.
Okay, that's
what I
that was my
okay, that's
concern.
why.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't in the flight plan.
The flight
And-
zone.
Yeah.
Landing or
Thank you.
taking off, so. Okay, thank you, man.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you. I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. If there's anybody from the public. See none, I'll bring it back to the board, close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for,
I would reluctantly make a motion, we approve the item as listed, approved by the planning and zoning commission.
Second.
you want to add with the performance conditions?
Well, I think that it was addressed pretty much initially, and I asked the questions that I wanted to ask. I'm not too comfortable with the fact that we're putting something on that area because of the nice contours and the responsibility we have not to encroach on the base. But it's pretty far away from maybe landing or taking off zones, and it's just a noise contour situation that is dealt with at the planning, at the development time, at the time of development.
So there's a motion and a second to approve the request, subject to attached performance conditions and schedule for development. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any approved, any opposed?
No,
One, okay.
the commander says, the letter from the commander says it will interfere with MCAS and to me, that means that we're encroaching on the base.
4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to discussion and regarding legislative issues. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Alexis.
Legislative presentation by Alexis Susdorf.
That's the way I recognize it. My husband's German heritage actually says Susdorf, but I think Susdorf is how I like to do it. So,
Welcome to Yuma County.
I have a presentation. Oh, okay. And then this clicker's okay. Okay.
No, we gave her the wrong one, so she.
Yeah, we have the same. I use the tablet.
tablet.
So awesome. So Mr. Chair and Supervisor, it's such a privilege to be here today. For the record, Alexis Susdorf. I am the proud new lobbyist representing Yuma County at our Capitol over the next session that's coming up soon. And I'm here to just give a quick legislative kind of outlook and update.
Is it session or year?
Legislative session. So it's
Session,
a
it's a session?
2-year.
It's a 2-year thing.
Correct.
That is the
Yeah.
legislative.
Roughly a 6-month engagement.
Okay. I got it.
But the session will, and then the legislature session is a 2-year session. But my
They're trying to
contract is
go
through the end
state-
of this
state.
fiscal year. Correct.
Because I know that Congress.
Yep, Congress is a
it's
whole
all
different
every year.
animal.
So it's the state side?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
I will jump in. So just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and my firm, State 48 Public Affairs. I am the owner of the firm, and I launched this firm a couple years ago. I had worked in a variety of lobbying capacities, and really a couple years ago, I had an interest to develop my own firm to work with clients and issues that I personally believe in, and Yuma County is certainly one of them. So really excited to sort of carry the foundation of my firm and bring that that grit and excitement to you all. So as mentioned, I've been doing this for 12 years. I've worked on a variety of subject matters. My firm currently works with public education, healthcare, and a variety of other government and political subdivisions. And just for reference, I represent Arizona Western College at the Capitol as well, which is a fantastic client. So the fun is about to begin. This is when the world gets pretty wild in Phoenix, in downtown Phoenix. Our legislature is set to convene next Monday, January 13th.
As some of you are very familiar with, the first kind of day and first week are filled with some common festivities. The first day is where members bring their friends and family to the Capitol, and they use that time to introduce their friends and sort of get to know one another and share some of the things they're excited about and will be working on with their friends and family that join them at the Capitol. One thing I'm always excited about is to listen to the governor's State of the State address. This year, Governor Hobbs will kind of look back at her last year and some of her accomplishments, and also she'll highlight some things, both policy and budget priorities that she will be working on over the next couple months. And we will see bills being published in very, very high volumes over the next week and couple weeks. This is as a result of some big deadlines that limit the number of bills. The legislative committees are very unlikely to meet that first week. If they do meet, it has little to no actual substantive work. They may do introductions of members and such, but we really won't see things start to really pick up until the following week. And then lastly, another big milestone, and I will make sure that you all get this information. The governor always publishes their executive budget the afternoon of that first Friday of session. This outlines the governor's priorities from a budget standpoint for the upcoming fiscal year. And then it also is the opportunity, sort of the mile marker where the House and Senate and governor sort of start to launch their work in trying to develop a fiscal year budget, a budget for the future fiscal year. Obviously, with the Democrat governor and Republican-led legislature, it's been really tricky to get a budget done the last couple of years, but they have. You all may be very familiar, but our legislature is looking very similar, yet a little bit different. We still have a House Republican majority in both the House and Senate, although the Republicans picked up 1 seat in the Senate and 2 seats in the House. This is really just an indicator of giving a little bit of breathing room for the Speaker and the President when they have partisan votes. When they have a little bit more wiggle room with more members, it makes it a little easier for them. You know, when you have a 31-29, 31 Republican, 29 in the House as an example, there's always that one member, that one Republican that will say, I know you need my vote, here's what I need. So it eliminates a little bit of that transactional nature, but it still will have that sort of Republican-led House and Senate and Democrat governor. I fully expect to see 1,600 to 1,800 bills published. This is 1,600, 1,800 too many in my mind. It's a lot of bills. I fully expect us to see around the 300, give or take, bills that will make it fully through the legislative process. And I also anticipate we will continue to see a high volume of vetoes, governor vetoes. Just for reference, last legislative session, Governor Hobbs vetoed 73. Her first year in office, she vetoed around 150. And then for further kind of context, Governor Ducey in his final year only vetoed 4 bills. So you can just sort of see the way our legislature works with a Democrat governor and Republican led House and Senate makes for some fun at the Capitol.
Alexis, question. Yeah. How many of those bills that weren't approved ended up being in the ballot? Do you know that by any chance? Because that's what happened last year.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair and Supervisor, we did see a very high volume of ballot referrals. I don't know specifically, but it is not traditionally that many that we see. I can definitely get back to you on that information, on how many referrals. So you're talking about ballot referrals, how many were introduced and then how many actually made it to the ballot. I'm happy to get you that information.
Thank you.
That's a good question because it is kind of an interesting statistic because we did see a pretty heavy ballot this year. A couple of items I just want to bring to your attention that are going to be highly dialogued and debated at the Capitol and things you will probably see. Some of it is relevant to you, some might not be as relevant, but it will consume a lot of the energy at the Capitol and a lot of the media attention, so I just want to make sure you're aware. Proposition 123 is going to be a big item. This is the allowance. It's a referral asking the public to use additional state land trust dollars for K-12 education. As a reminder, back in 2015, there was a similar referral. Constitutionally, the state's allowed to use 2.5%. So in 2015, a referral was brought to allow authorization of 6.9%. That was only for 10 years. So we are looking at that expiring at the end of this fiscal year. and there is a lot of interest to expand or to continue use of those additional state land trust dollars. I will say it is really challenging to do for a variety of reasons. They had some bills last year, but none of them really got through the finish line. The two big issues are, what is the percentage out of the state land trust? Some people want to see 6.9 continued. Some people think that's too high and want to go down to 4. Some people feel 5.5. And I'm not saying as a partisan, I'm saying even in parties, people disagree on what the percentage is. And then the other is the policy attached to it. What is the policy attached? Education advocates seem to be pushing for sort of a clean renewal. There is interest to be more prescriptive in how those funds are used. So it's going to be a really challenging task ahead. But regardless, should they get something together, it could potentially be a special election. It could consume a lot of your time and energy with a special election. So just want to put on your radars that is going to probably be something we hear about a lot over the next month.
Could it be extended with 3/4 vote of the legislature, or does it have to go to the ballot?
Mr. Chair, it has to go to the ballot.
Okay, thanks.
Just a couple of other issues I want to bring to your attention. Water issues, we will continue to see water issues. There are sort of two big water concepts that have been at the Capitol last year and will continue to infiltrate the Capitol. The concept of ag to urban is what it's kind of coined at the Capitol, but it's transitioning agricultural land to urban and acknowledging some of the water challenges with that. I will note that the Department of Water Resources recently adopted some rulemaking on this, which also got a lot of public scrutiny. But a lot of stakeholders were not pleased with that rulemaking, and so I anticipate there will still be a bill, an ag to urban type of bill. So we will see that seems to be a big topic of conversation. Also, rural groundwater, there is continued interest from rural communities to develop some legislation outside of the active management and irrigation non-expansion area tool to develop something to manage their depleting rural groundwater. Housing will be another big topic. I know we have coming up, there is a substantial number of election bills already introduced, so we will see a lot of that. And a couple of kind of items I continue to see talked about in the media is funding for childcare, criminal justice reform, and then continued behavioral health issues. So just want to, I'm sure there will be others, but these will be big ticket items that consume a lot of the energy.
Alexis, one more issue. It was on the early ballot issue. I mean, if this was designed to help us, because it did happen to be one of the biggest issues we had, was the later to be verified ballots that are dropped off election day. In the area that I represent, the early ballot box was so flowing by 6 p.m. I mean, we couldn't find a place to put it. And people would just go and drop their ballots. I understand that's a big issue. And I understand that's going to be dealt with by actually trying to deal away with, eliminate the practice. But if eliminating the practice means that it requires an on-site early voter to present ID and sign an early voting certificate, it only makes it worse, because every early voting certificate that gets signed is stating that you are the person depositing the ballot. We got an item for discussion.
Yeah, and I know that
what I'm saying is, if they want to make it easier for people to do that, or easier for us to do that, creating a certificate process isn't going to do that. I just want to make sure that we let that be known.
Yeah, and I'll just respond as vanilla as possible, but I think it's important. There's just this continued dialogue at the Capitol about the desire to have faster results, honor the democratic voting system, and it's becoming really challenging because we all want the same thing. We want election integrity, we all want fast results, and we all want everyone to vote. I mean, I think we all want all of those. It's just how we get there looks so different, and it's really such a tough animal to tackle at the Capitol, and I know you all will debate this. I'm excited to hear about your discussion on one of those pieces of legislation. There will be others, but it is certainly a very challenging topic, and will continue to be that at the Capitol because we all have different ideas on how we get to that same end result. So I will leave it at that. So as of Friday, 55 bills and 6 memorials and resolutions were pre-filed to cover a few I am tracking for the county. Representative John Gillette, who's the new Federalism, Military Affairs, and Elections Chair, has introduced several bills relating to voter registration and election mail handling. Specifically, HB 2004 prohibits county recorders from providing an initial or updated voter registration card to a person whose mailing address is outside of the state of Arizona, which lists exemptions for uniformed persons. It's important to note that this bill was vetoed by the governor last year. House Bill 2005 permits county recorders to place the person's voter registration information in inactive status and provide the person with notice of the action if the county recorder believes the person provided fraudulent or incorrect voter registration information. HB 2006 requires a non-governmental person or entity that mails or delivers by hand an official election-related document, including a voter registration application or an early ballot request, to include the words "not from a government agency" in boldface, clearly legible print outside the envelope. HB 2008 modifies notary requirements with a number of provisions that have greater impacts in the Secretary of State versus the counties. Yuma County staff are currently analyzing these bills to assess the impacts to the county elections processes. In addition, both Senator Mesnard and President Peterson pre-filed bills attempting to modify early voting. Senator Mesnard's SB 1001 establishes 7 p.m. on the Friday before an election as the deadline for on-site early voting, and President Peterson's SB 1011 removes county emergency voting authority, late early drop-offs, and prescribes early voting dates as the Sunday and Monday before an election. It's my understanding you all have an agenda item to discuss this in more detail. President Peterson also filed a bill that was tried last year, Senate Bill 1013, which would require a 2/3 vote of county supervisors for any tax or fee increases. So for you all, this would require 4 out of 5. This is an item that the board may want to consider taking a position on. Senator Rogers introduced 2 bills, Senate Bill 1023 and 1027, outlining prohibitions on specified equipment and infrastructure produced by foreign adversaries. The focus is on telecommunications or critical infrastructure. Bringing to your attention 1035, a CSA legislative priority authorizing counties to increase legal payment for post-conviction relief proceedings above $100 an hour. And I also just wanted to note, I saw HB 2017 posted this morning, sponsored by Representative Jones, who's the vice chair of Mr. Gillette's committee. The bill prohibits precincts from being greater than 1,000 registered voters. It also disallows use of voting centers. I will note she also dropped an HCR 2002, which is the same bill, just in referral form, meaning it would go to the ballot. If passed, it doesn't need the governor's signature. Couple key deadlines I want to bring to your attention that really drives the work at the Capitol. February 21st is the first big deadline. This is when the bills have to be considered in committees in their chamber of origin, meaning the House has to complete their House committees have to complete their work on House bills. Senate has to complete their committee work on Senate bills. There's always exceptions to deadlines. We see that happen all the time. The 24th through the 28th is a really busy week at the Capitol. That's called crossover week. That's when the chambers usually kind of hunker down and get everyone in to get bills voted out of their chamber in hopes of that next deadline, which is March 28th, which is the deadline for bills to be considered in the committees in the opposite chamber. So Senate has to consider all their House bills and committees, and the House has to consider all Senate bills. And April 26th is their big goal for sine die, that is the 100th day, although we have seen historically we really don't stick to that, with COVID being an exception. For reference, June 15th is when they finished last session, and then the year before that, July 31st. And it's my joke that nobody wants to be wearing a suit at the Capitol in June and July. A couple things I'm working on with Alejandro I'm excited about, and I just want to quickly put on your radars. Alejandro and staff and I have been developing some legislative priorities. This would be something reviewed and approved by you all, and it will really help guide me at the work at the Capitol and make sure I understand what your priorities and I'm representing you appropriately. And then also, I'd love to bring you out for sort of a Yuma County Day at the Capitol, so we can sort of work to find a day that works for everyone, but bring you out, get you out to meetings, get you to see some of the action. Those are just some things that I do with clients, and it's just a really great day to get you out there to sort of see what I do day to day on your behalf. And my contact information, email and cell phone, should you all ever need me. I'm available for questions.
Just one comment in general. For the time that I've been here, we've always looked at home rule situation as being something that we look forward to. This is getting worse and worse every time, because the more the legislature does to mandate us to do things and the less ability we have to make decisions about where the funding comes from, the more difficult it becomes to be a supervisor. So from the beginning, I'll tell you personally, I find it a bit ironic that the legislature is trying to tell us what to do and limit how we come up with the funding, because that's what gets a lot of counties in trouble. When you have a three-quarter majority or a majority to pass fees, for example, which is not taxes. Well, it could be considered taxes, but whenever you do things like that, or it's Bill 1013, it's Bill 1011, it's Bill 1035, they all mandate certain things that are going to cost counties more. And they basically limit the way counties react to a lot of this stuff the legislature sends. The county, Yuma County is always, to me, has always been very, very good at keeping their finances clean. We've never asked for additional help. We get it when we get it, and we get it, and we're grateful for it. But every time I see something that comes up that the legislature is mandating us to do that is going to cost us money, and every time I see them trying to limit the way we do things, I kind of think you're being punished for being good. And so I just want to let you know that anything that you see that basically limits us the way we run the county, it's to me offensive. And I would not technically support it unless I see some reason for it that is beyond our ability to create the funding sources we need to keep the county level. So I just want to let you know. And we do have a representative here that's been a legislator for a long time, Senator. She was a state representative, state senator. So we do have people here that know what goes on. And I'd say the vice chair is also very active.
Yes, at the state level.
State level, and the chairman here has also been involved. So we don't have that kind of a detachment that normally accompanies a lot of the AG counties. We do have some active people in the process. So you're going to get a lot of assistance. But to me, that's going to be a philosophical ground that you want to keep an eye on.
And Mr. Chair and Supervisors, preemption is certainly a big theme at the Capitol amongst counties and local municipalities. So certainly something I will keep on my radar. We do see it, and again, I'm an optimist that everyone comes to something, with good intent, but these sort of local applications of these are what's really challenging. So I will certainly keep an eye out on preemption type of items, and I know CSA is also really vigilant on those items.
That's what, yes, Mr. Chair, Alexis. My goal is to not have the state legislature transfer any more financial responsibility for positions and state that are state responsibilities, and transfer those financial down to the county. It's like 60-40 that we spend in the courts, and they give raises and it comes out of our pockets. So and the county works very hard not to raise our tax rate or increase taxes in any way. So that's my goal, is to make sure that the state doesn't transfer any more financial responsibilities down to the county.
And then we get to fix them, like the retirement issue, which became a big issue because the state really doesn't manage that well. So it became our responsibility to come up with the funds to keep up with the retirement situation, which is an issue we don't have much to say about, because we get there, we get our we get our direction from the state. And then so when the state said, well, we can't handle this, then it comes to us to be able to fix them. And that's the kind of thing, that preemptive issue that I bring forth. Some of these things become big issues because the state just fails to handle them. Then they send them to us for us to fix, and we are not given the tools. And we're taking the tools away. I understand the conservative nature of the legislature, but conservative means less government, not more government, as far as I'm concerned. So, thank you.
You're such a Republican, Tony.
I know. We'll change that, but it's okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you, Alexis. And by the way, I think on the 15th, the CSA has the reception.
Yes, they do.
I'll be there. I will be there, yep.
Write it. So we'll be there.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Are you gonna be there?
Meeting with Peterson in the morning.
Alejandro,
Chairman, members of the board, Happy New Year.
New Year.
Last year, during our last meeting, county attorney, former county attorney, advised the board to have these items placed on the agenda for discussion by the board. So I'll just briefly read on the summary of the bill and pass it on to the board for any comments or feedback or guidance to staff on this particular bill. So SB 1011, sponsored by Senate President Peterson, would eliminate the practice of depositing voted early ballots on election day. The legislation would expand on-site early voting to the Saturday and Monday before the election, simultaneously eliminating emergency voting and emergency voting centers, and limit election day drop-off of voted early ballots to the office of the recorder or other officer in charge of elections. Finally, it would require an on-site early voter to present identification and sign an quote-unquote early voting certificate, which would consequentially allow the ballot to bypass the early election board. We also have Election Services Director here in the room as well, and Ms. Director Robin Stalvart-Pouquet as well, if the board has any questions or needs some feedback from staff.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You know, to see Senator Dunn, who represents Yuma County, is listed as one of the sponsors of this legislation, either give us an opportunity or gives us a glimpse of where we're at with this. But I mean, if there's someone we need to address the issue with, is Senator Dunn, who's just been elected to the Senate, to understand that even though this was a tough election cycle for us, as we had so many late early ballots, there's ways to solve those problems that doesn't include removing the ability to have voting centers, which is, we were like pioneers on that. We did such a great job. We were one of the top counties in the state during the election. Clearly, it's not the most difficult or harsh reason that we need to take a close look at this bill. If this bill gets across on the party line vote, it will only make it more difficult for the county recorder or for anybody to do their job. But I don't think that the current county recorder is going to care. So we're going to have to do as a supervisor things that we thought we more or less laid out to Susan Pouquet, to Robin. I mean, for a long time. I mean, because we thought we had such a great advocate there that knew the system, but the new one, I'm not sure that that's going to be the case. So let's just keep a close eye on this one. This one could become a very, very touchy issue.
Mr. Chairman.
It is a touchy issue.
It is a touchy issue, yeah, absolutely. Maybe we might hear from Keegan just briefly on the late early ballots and a perspective from that office.
Talk about getting the...
Or Robin, whomever.
While she's coming up, I have a question. Can you still drop off your, I read the summary, I didn't read the whole thing. And you can still drop off your early ballot at the recorder's office, correct? On the day of the election?
Just not to the polling places.
Just not at the polling places.
But remember,
Okay.
there's only voting centers, which is
Voting centers,
a
but anyway.
very different approach that we've had in the past.
Yeah.
When you have polling places, which is individual places where people vote from that precinct, I think that makes it a lot simpler. But when it's a voting center where you can't tell anyone where people voted, I mean, people from precinct 30-something could have voted in Yuma at the Civic Center. People could have voted in San Luis that belong to the Yuma precinct. That makes it a much more complicated issue than a simple polling place issue where you can drop off your ballots. So this can make it complicated. I mean, we've for years tried to make it easier for people to find a place to vote that doesn't require them. Look, we make these elections on a Tuesday, which is a work day. People go out early in the morning, at noon, or late in the afternoon. because they're working. People are not all allowed to go vote at any time.
Yeah.
So that makes it very difficult for us to manage a situation where we still we go back to having what, 45, 47 different polling places?
Well,
Well,
Tony, I
let's hear
found
what-
out, I know.
Let's hear what
I
they.
found out we're the only one that has just one early voting center in the state of Arizona. We're the only county. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to rephrase my question. Robin, how can we expedite our elections?
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, in 10 words or less. Chairman Porteous, Supervisor Lyons, I think that's the golden question, really, because everybody would like the answer to that. I do think that in light of the experiences of all of the counties this last cycle, I think there's an opportunity, and some of the suggestions that have been made in this bill and other bills that I hope are used as a positive, to encourage a positive dialogue in encouraging use of updated technology, some of the ability we have now currently, and expand the efforts that we are able to make in voter education and community outreach.
That's a lot more than 10 words.
That's a lot more than 10 words. There are components of this particular bill that are interesting to me, which make me think that there is a huge opportunity to get all of the counties on the same page with efficiencies that Yuma County currently uses. We do have voters signing a certificate during the live early voting period. And I don't know if a lot of that information is been already shared with legislators, but there are a couple of counties that, because we're using accessible voting equipment, ballot marking devices in our early voting site, which is the recorder's office, this county is having voters sign that certificate so that those ballot marking devices can be utilized in compliance with ADA. So those ballots are immediately deposited in equipment that's already been certified by the Secretary of State's office for the purpose of early voting. So I think the big piece is the deadline on the early ballots, and then how do we serve the voters if that deadline were accepted to limit this funnel of late earlies that require this processing that really does not take place until after Election Day. I think the goal would be to focus on those days and how can we serve the voters in a more efficient way and still meet, the needs that are outlined in a few of these bills.
Okay. I've read some of these bills, and I can tell you right now, this doesn't make it any easier. Having a polling place in every precinct, that's 47 precincts here, I think, in Yuma County, or 40-something. That makes it a much, much more. It's 8B or something. This bill is full of stuff that will help if you could just separate it. But if you look at it as a whole, it doesn't make it any easier for us to handle it. Look at it. Let's look at page. Look at 20, 21, 22. The lines, and says last 20 days before general election, at least 10 days before a special election, the board shall designate one polling place within each precinct. Where. So, some places have precincts that are, 40, we have 47 precincts.
Chairman Porteous, Supervisor Reyes, I believe, is that page 1 of the proposed?
Yes, page 1.
Okay, so page 2, 411B4 allows the Board of Supervisors by specific resolution to establish vote centers. So it would not eliminate the ability to have vote centers, which we've learned in Yuma County has been quite efficient. However, it does eliminate the emergency voting. The Board of Supervisors did establish or approve locations for emergency voting, and that would be eliminated. However, the counties have experienced over the last several cycles, emergency voting is now being utilized really for
early voting.
So that in particular wouldn't impact Yuma County really at all. We do offer the early voting for that period.
Mr. Chair, I think we could eliminate the opposition to late earlies if we allowed for a larger, three, I can think of, 3 early voting centers in Yuma County, one in Foothills, one in South County, and one at the recorder's office. And that way people, if we had 3 early voting sites, people could vote in their communities and not be burdened by having to come all the way into Yuma. And they could also drop off their early ballots at those sites, and those early ballots could be counted ahead of time. And we could eliminate a lot of late earlies that way.
Mr. Chairman, Robin, just to tack onto that, would it be feasible to operate an early voting center, for example, in the San Luis Library and the Welton Library? What would that do to your staff requirements?
It'll be about staff,
Yeah.
staffing it.
Well,
so,
that was
yeah.
my last
Well,
follow-up.
Chairman Porches, Supervisor Pancrase, Supervisor Lyons, we have discussed it in the past several different times. As you know, the challenges have been staffing and equipment, in addition to the safety and security of the equipment offsite. With proper planning, I do think that it's possible for our county. However, the statute explicitly assigns that responsibility to the county recorder to establish early voting sites as the recorder deems necessary. So the Board of Supervisors wouldn't necessarily be able to approve those sites. I think that's probably, in addition, Election Services does coordinate with the recorder's office because, again, the ADA accessible ballot marking devices are currently used in our county to comply with those laws.
If I read this correctly, there's a section there that requires a judge, a municipal judge, justice of the peace to step in. I mean, this is very complex. This is not a small statute. This is a very complex statute that needs to be read carefully because, you know, the unintended consequences of this is that, as far as I'm concerned, little by little, the Board of Supervisors are being taken out of the process. And if you don't do this, then you know, somebody will do it for you. Or somebody, you know, either the officer in charge of elections, or the recorder, or a judge, or somebody will do it for you. That, again, goes against my instinct that says that the more you take out the process from the Board of Supervisors, the more it becomes politicized. It becomes controversial, because it's controversial as it is, but it becomes even more controversial if you put it in the hands of an elected official that may or may not be partisan.
Chairman Porches, Supervisor Reyes. Yuma County has historically enjoyed efficient cooperation between the recorder's office and election services to accomplish the needs for the whole period of early voting. As you know, the ballot is created and formatted by the elections office. Equipment is certified by the Secretary of State's office, and then it is necessary to identify those efficiencies that we could better serve the voters as with all of the stakeholders at the table. I do believe we've not experienced any issue that's required intervention by a judge or justice of the peace, which is for the purpose of identifying locations if locations were not available or became unavailable, or the county failed to designate locations for voting. So
it even gets political. It says an act of God, which a terrorism act might not be an act of God, but it could influence the elections. So how do you define an act of God? Everything's an act of God.
In the event, and I know some counties have experienced a need to relocate locations because of perhaps a weather incident or something that created, thinking of an example might be a roof leaking following a rainstorm that you have sensitive equipment, power outages due to weather, things like that. So.
Well, it's encouraging to me to see that everybody's paying attention, at least, and that you're looking at opportunities versus, you know, damages that you can't fix later on. So that's encouraging to me. It's discouraging to have somebody look at this from the perspective of just opening it up to everybody else, which is not really consistent. To me, it's not consistent with the thought process of keeping it open, keeping it efficient, which I think over the past few years we've been able to do. And it's been thanks to people like you and Kika and everybody that's been involved in the process, but that's getting highly. discretionary. Let's put it that way.
Chairman Porter, Supervisor Reyes, it is getting extremely challenging to process the large number of late earlies. And I think that the community is unaware of the several steps that are necessary from the time that the ballot is received to the time that the ballot's tabulated. So again, I do think that this bill opens up some dialogue amongst all of the stakeholders to establish some efficiencies that could be used in all of the counties. And reading the comments, Elections Director Kika Guzman and myself went through various comments that were posted by other counties, and it is interesting that some of them are not able to use some of the efficiencies we already have, and we receive a large number of late earlies on top of the efficiencies we've already established. We allow people to come in and receive a live ballot during the early voting period, absent the envelope. But I do think that the bill also, as I was explaining to Alejandro, there are some challenges in expanding timeframes to 7 p.m. and having that live balloting going on through that Monday before Election Day, because data needs to be uploaded and delivered to the vote centers, and there's always challenges with that. And that's just a really tight time frame that could delay opening of a vote center on Election Day. But I do think seems as though a few of the legislators are introducing similar thoughts on these things, and if we identify solutions that accomplish the same thing, I think that there's a possibility we could better the service across the state and limit the delays we have with those ballots coming in last minute. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request that the recorder look into opening up additional early voting sites for the next election.
Well, we can talk to him, but if you want to go to tonight's swearing in.
I'm driving to Phoenix.
Oh, he's being sarcastic.
But
I'm sure he's being sarcastic.
No,
I got the invitation.
But anyway, I think we need to.
We'll talk with him.
Okay, we need to request that he
Thank you.
look into
Robin.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you,
Any
Kika.
any other?
Yeah, or comment?
Do you have a comment? You want to step up, please? Hold on, Alejandro.
Mr. Chairman, supervisors, I was fortunate enough to work as a marshal at the Civic Center and saw a lot of the late earlies come in.
Thank you.
You had asked specifically what can we do to speed up the voting process. There is something I think after discussions with Kika that we can do immediately, and that is to send out the sample ballot earlier. We're restricted by state law and state date requirements, but as you know, our mail leaves Yuma, goes to either San Diego or Phoenix, and then comes back. So many people that I know did not get their sample ballot until like the day of or right afterwards. I think we could work together with the state legislature to be able to send out our ballots earlier, because as you all know, as we get more polarized, the ballots are only going to get longer. This year was 2 pages, it's going to get longer. And from my personal experience, voting at the electronic machines, if they did not have a sample ballot or didn't know how they were going to vote, took substantially longer than the ones who were doing paper ballots.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I agree. That's why the lines were so long. Go ahead.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We'll continue now with the regular update. So since Alexis already covered the state, she did a great job with that, I will just jump to the federal component of it. On December 20th, 2024, the U.S. House and Senate passed the second continuing resolution to extend federal spending and avert a government shutdown through March 2025. Bipartisan CR passed the U.S. House and Senate by bipartisan votes of 366 to 34 and 85 to 11, respectively, just hours before midnight when the first stopgap measure was set to expire. The CR text includes the following policy highlights. Well, it includes this one highlight that I think affects and impacts Yuma County. It includes over $100 billion in supplemental funding for critical federal disaster programs, including $29 billion for federal emergency management agency's disaster relief fund. And it also includes a year-long extension of the 2018 Farm Bill through September 30th, 2025, and $10 billion in economic assistance for agriculture producers, facing hardship due to rising input costs and decreasing prices. Also, on December 18th, the U.S. Senate passed by bipartisan bicameral Thomas R. Carper Water Resources Development Act. The bill included a modified version of the Economic Development Reauthorization Act of 2024, which would reauthorize the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration, the only federal agency solely dedicated to economic development activities. The EDA is vital for county economic development investments by helping foster resilient and diversified local economies, support American businesses, strengthen workforce development, and enhance critical infrastructure, including broadband. Lastly, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the bipartisan bicameral Senator Elizabeth Dole 21st Century Veterans Healthcare and Benefits Improvement Act. The legislation compiled several proposals that seek to modernize the delivery of healthcare benefits and services at the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. Section 302 of the Dole Act authorizes $10 million annually for 2 years to create a new program to award competitive grants to county veteran service offices throughout the states to create, expand, or support county veteran service offices or similar local entities, prioritizing areas with high rates of veteran suicide, veteran crisis line referrals, or critical county veteran service offices shortages. NACO has been working in a coordinated fashion with other veteran services organizations to pass these legislations because it included for the first time federal resources for county veteran service officers. On the international and border affairs update, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said during her daily press briefing that in cases where the U.S. would not return migrants to their countries, Mexico would collaborate through different mechanisms. She did not offer details, but Mexico could limit it to certain nationalities or request compensation from the U.S. to move the deportees from Mexico to their home countries. Also from Mexico, the Irish Secretary of Foreign Affairs said Mexico will defend human rights of its citizens in accordance with international law and highlighted a new cell phone app to help migrants who fear they might be getting detained to local consulate. Maybe getting detained to let local consulates know about it. The app will allow migrants to inform family members and alert local Mexican consulates. Also, on the international front, and this just came up this morning, and although it's not Mexico, it has to do with Canada, and we do have a lot of Canadian visitors here in Yuma County. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced his resignation this morning. He will leave office once a new ruling party is chosen, and Canada's parliament will be suspended until March 24.
Wow.
That will conclude my presentation to the board, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. If you have any questions, happy
Any questions for Alejandro?
No.
Thank you, Alejandro. Current events.
Oh,
I guess.
yeah, I attended the long-term planning roundtable, and I attended the State Transportation Board meeting via Zoom, and spoke at Call to the Public and asked for funding for additional Highway 95 widening. So those are the two things that I did during Christmas and New Year's. Happy New Year, everybody.
Water infrastructure and finance, and then had some water meetings around Yuma. I had a meeting with President Peterson and several legislators on the day of the long-term planning roundtable. Then met with Representative Carbone on behalf of CSA to establish our legislative priorities.
Thank you.
And then had another planning meeting with CSA and Alejandro and Ian. Wait, who was on that call? I don't remember. Just you? Okay. And then tomorrow morning I'll meet with President Peterson again.
Yes.
To reestablish our legislative priorities.
Thank you.
And continue that. Spoke with several of Yuma area ag producers regarding our mesh system. They're anxious to see some improvements there. and are waiting to purchase millions and millions and $1 million of equipment, pending some questions being responded to from the county.
Regarding their wireless stuff?
Regarding the mesh system.
Yeah, the mesh system.
Maybe 2 calls a day. So hopefully we can expedite that and get them the answers that they need, since they're the ones that will be investing
the money.
Personal and business money into that system. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Attended numerous special events around the county the latter part of the year. Had a community meeting this last Saturday in the foothills, and just want to give a shout out to 2 officers that used to work for me with the sheriff's office that just retired, George Pesci and Jim Womack. Just retired after 20 plus years with the sheriff's office. And also, I guess today too, one of their dispatchers, Jose Alcala, who I worked with, or Aldo Aldaco, I never can pronounce his last name, I always call him Jose. But he retired as a dispatcher, which I haven't seen in quite some time with the sheriff's office. And that is a job I wouldn't care to do. I did it when I first started with the sheriff's office, just sitting in there. But they have a very hard job that I can't imagine me doing it. And everybody thinks deputy's tough. Sit behind that console and deal with calls that come in. I'm sure Adam has seen it. So to make it through retirement, he deserves a shout out. And that's it.
Thanks.
I want to just address briefly, if I can, the legislative team that came down to meet with the AJ legislative team, because I think Senator Brian Fernandez brought in a few members of the House and the Senate, and they met with representatives from the AJ community. It is more difficult to make decisions without, when you know all the problems, and they met with the board director, Mr. Chris Leon, and actually saw firsthand what's going on there in San Luis in the mornings at 4 or 5 in the morning. I want to thank whomever is responsible for putting that together. That was I had the pleasure of hosting them at the comité. They're a fine set of people that went in a bus, and they actually got to see that firsthand. That's pretty, to me, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
The act tour. Now, the other thing I have a comment on, other than the meetings that I had, is I looked at the calendar. And I looked at the month of March, and I saw that we changed the dates of the month of March meetings for the 2nd and 4th Monday of the month. I thought we were set by the legislature for 1st and 3rd Monday. Is that a problem, a legal problem?
We're not set.
We're not set by the...
No.
Just 2 meetings a month.
Is it set on statute?
So the other counties have them on
Yeah, I know,
Wednesdays or...
Do we set it?
I thought so, yeah, we said.
Well, just to double check on that, because we moved them from the 1st and 3rd. I know that we move them every time there's a holiday to the Wednesday. That's
because it's NACO. Are you going?
Yeah, well, no. I have no problem with that NACO thing.
But yeah, it falls on a Monday.
Yeah, I know. So we moved it to the next Monday, but then we moved the one on the 3rd with no reason to the 4th. Now, I'd like to know if that's a statutory driven or if that's a choice. If you have a choice to work with me, this really solves a lot of my problems. So just double check on that and make sure that we don't run afoul of.
And I could just answer that real briefly if you like. We did move those 2 dates in March to preserve the 2 weeks between each meeting. So the way the calendar works, there'll be 2 weeks
I
between
can see that.
the March meetings and leading into the April meeting.
Like I said, if it's not a statutory driven, I have no problem. But if it's legally driven by statute, then we need to take a look at what the reasons is to move them out. And I don't know if it's convenience, it's convenience. Because it's more convenient this way, because it's separate 2 weeks, so we have more issues to deal with. Okay, that's just my comment. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Ian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. Thanks, everyone, for your participation in the Board of Supervisors Long-Term Planning Roundtable. I think it was a successful, informative, productive meeting. And just another footnote, we had a meeting with the postmaster to discuss mail delivery at the new administration building across the street. So getting into the final stages, of course, of that project. And wanted to thank Deputy County Administrator Josh Scott for keeping an eye on things while I was away for a couple of weeks. And Happy New Year, everyone.
I forgot to tell you, I feel for you. I mean, I know you lost your mom over the holidays, and that's always a tough thing to do. And so, all of us, I'm sure that everybody feels the same way. It's tough, no matter how you slice it. It's tough.
Thank you, sir.
That's it.
Meeting adjourned.